The sun was setting over the dusty town of Silver Ridge, casting long orange shadows across the wooden buildings, and the wind carried a chill that made the old saloon doors creak. Into this quiet town rode Cole Maddox, a lone warrior with worn boots and a wide-brimmed hat, his eyes sharp and alert, scanning every corner as if expecting trouble to rise from the dust at any moment. Cole had been on the road for days, chasing rumors of a strange artifact said to hold power beyond imagination, and his journey had left him tired but focused, every muscle ready for danger. The townspeople watched him with curiosity and a little fear, whispering behind curtains and across porches, for a man like Cole was not common, and his presence always meant change. Inside the saloon, the air smelled of whiskey, tobacco, and old wood, and a few gamblers lifted their heads when he entered, his boots thudding heavily on the floor. At a corner table sat Ilara, a young woman with hair like dark silk and eyes that reflected both fear and strength, her hands clutching a small, cloth-covered box as if it contained the very essence of her life. Cole's gaze landed on her, and he noticed immediately that she was different, not just because of the object she guarded but because of the way she seemed to sense danger before it arrived. Just as he approached, the saloon doors burst open, and a group of rough-looking outlaws swaggered in, laughing and shouting, their pistols glinting in the dim light, clearly searching for something, or someone. They spotted Ilara immediately, their eyes hungry for the box she hid, and one of them spat on the floor, sneering, "Hand it over, girl. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Ilara's eyes darted toward Cole, silently pleading, and she whispered barely above the sound of the wind and the outlaw's jeers, "Please, don't lift this cloth. No matter what happens, don't." Cole froze for a moment, a shiver running down his spine as he realized the warning was not about a trick, trap, or treasure, but something far more dangerous, something he could feel calling to him through the fabric, vibrating with energy he did not yet understand. The outlaws advanced, and Cole drew his revolver, not to threaten Ilara but to protect her, knowing that if he failed, whatever was hidden in that box might be lost forever. A tense silence fell over the room as the townspeople peeked from behind their doors and windows, and even the gamblers stopped their games, watching the standoff unfold like a storm about to break. Cole's mind raced, weighing his choices, leave her to save himself or risk everything to protect a mystery he barely understood. Ilara's hands trembled slightly, but her gaze held a fierce determination, and Cole realized that whatever she carried was not only valuable but dangerous in ways that no ordinary gun could defend against. The outlaws sneered and stepped closer, but Cole's voice rang clear, steady, and calm, "Back away. She's under my protection." Laughter erupted, but Cole didn't flinch. He knew that sometimes courage alone could turn the tide, and he would have to show it tonight. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and the cloth on Ilara's lap shifted slightly, as if responding to his presence, a silent reminder that the stakes were far higher than anyone in the saloon could guess. The tension grew, thick and suffocating, as the outlaws debated whether to attack or retreat, but before any decision could be made, the cloth seemed to pulse, sending a strange sensation through Cole's body, a mix of heat, energy, and fear, warning him that the object was alive in some way, aware of him and of the danger surrounding them. Cole's heart pounded, adrenaline surging, and he realized that his life had changed in a single moment, that this quiet town and this mysterious woman would pull him into something far larger than Silver Ridge, far larger than anything he had faced in his battles across the desert. The outlaws' leader stepped forward, and the room held its breath, the only sound the creaking of the old wooden beams and the whisper of the wind outside, carrying with it the promise of chaos, mystery, and a challenge that would test Cole in ways he could not yet imagine. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in red and gold, Cole knew that from this moment forward, nothing would ever be the same, that the warning Ilara had given him was only the beginning, and that the true adventure, the true test of courage and human strength, was just beginning to unfold before his very eyes. The night fell over Silver Ridge like a heavy blanket, and the town seemed quieter than ever, with only the occasional creak of wood and the distant howl of a coyote. Breaking the silence, while Cole Maddox and Ilara slipped out the back door, moving carefully through the shadows, the small cloth-covered box still held tightly in her arms as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Cole's mind raced, trying to understand the strange energy he had felt in the saloon, the pulsing force that seemed alive and aware, and though he had faced countless dangers in his life, nothing had ever felt like this, something beyond human, something ancient. As they walked toward the edge of town, Ilara whispered softly, her voice trembling but determined, "You must keep your hands off it. Even looking too closely can change you. It's not a weapon, not exactly, it's alive. Cole nodded, his instincts screaming that she was telling the truth, and he glanced around the empty streets, noticing that even the wind seemed to bend around the box, as if it obeyed some secret law only it could understand. Behind them, the town slept unaware, but danger was not far away. The outlaws from the saloon had not forgotten, and their boots echoed through the desert as they followed, greedy and reckless, wanting the object for reasons they could not comprehend. Cole and Ilara moved quickly, ducking behind rocks and abandoned wagons, the moonlight glinting off the barrel of Cole's revolver, ready to defend her at a moment's notice, while the energy from the box hummed faintly, almost like it was testing him, warning him, calling him forward. Ilara began to explain more, her words careful, choosing what to reveal. This cloth, this box, it is a piece of something greater, something my people have guarded for centuries. They never thought it would reach humans, because humans are unpredictable. Dangerous, but strong in ways we cannot measure. Cole's curiosity burned, but he forced himself to focus, to protect her, because he knew that if the outlaws caught them, whatever power the box held would fall into the wrong hands. They paused near an old abandoned mine, the darkness deep and foreboding, and Cole felt the hairs on his neck rise as the box pulsed again, stronger this time, almost like a heartbeat, and for a moment he imagined what it would be like to lift the cloth and see what secrets lay hidden, but he remembered Ilara's warning and forced himself to step back, keeping his hands at his side. The outlaws appeared suddenly on a ridge above them, shouting, guns raised, demanding that Ilara surrender the box, and Cole's heart thumped hard as he realized a fight was inevitable. He moved instinctively, drawing his revolver, taking cover behind a rock, while Ilara's eyes glowed with a strange intensity, and the box trembled in her lap as if reacting to the threat. Bullets flew, kicking up dust and echoing off the canyon walls, but Cole was fast and precise, his years on the road sharpening every move, and soon the outlaws were retreating, realizing that this human was no ordinary fighter and that the object they sought was protected by more than just skill, it was guarded by destiny itself. After the danger passed, Ilara breathed deeply, shaking slightly, and looked at Cole with a mix of gratitude and fear. You don't understand yet. This object, it responds to humans in ways no one else can. It can test courage, loyalty, and even your very soul. That is why I must protect it, and why you must resist the temptation to see what's inside. Cole's mind whirled, imagining all the possibilities, feeling the pull of the unknown, the thrill and danger mixing together, and he realized that from this moment forward, nothing in his life would be ordinary again. As they moved deeper into the desert, the stars above seemed brighter, almost guiding them, and Cole noticed strange formations in the sand, shapes that looked like ruins older than any human settlement, as if the land itself held secrets that had been forgotten by time. Ilara explained that these were markers, signs that her people had left to guide the object when it traveled across worlds, and that now humans had stumbled into something far larger than any town or outlaw gang could threaten. Cole felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, stronger than any gun or battle scar, because he understood that protecting the object was about more than survival, it was about the future, about proving that humans, despite their flaws, could rise to challenges no one else could face. The wind shifted again, stronger now, carrying a whisper that made Cole's skin tingle, and he realized that the desert itself seemed alive, reacting to the object, to them, to the choices they would make. He looked at Ilara, and she met his gaze, both knowing silently that the coming days would not be easy, that danger was only beginning, and that the power hidden under that simple cloth could either save them, or destroy everything they knew. With every step they took into the unknown, Cole felt the thrill of adventure, the fear of the unknown, and the certainty that humans were about to discover strength far beyond what they imagined, a force that could challenge even the greatest threats, and as they disappeared into the shadows of the desert, the pulsing energy of the box seemed to promise one thing clearly: the story was far from over, and the real test of courage, of human spirit, and of destiny itself, had only just begun. Cole and Ilara moved silently through the desert under a sky full of stars, the sand cold beneath their boots and the wind whispering secrets of ancient times, and though the town of Silver Ridge was far behind them, the danger felt closer than ever because the outlaws were relentless, tracking them with determination that only greed and fear could inspire. But Cole's mind was occupied with something far more pressing, the strange pulsing of the cloth-covered box that Ilara carried, a vibration that seemed alive, reacting to every step, every breath, almost as if it were judging him, testing him, daring him to lift the cloth and see the power it held. They reached a canyon where the rocks rose like walls of a fortress, casting deep shadows that hid their movements from anyone foolish enough to follow too closely, and Ilara whispered urgently, "We have to keep moving. They are faster than you think, and this desert has eyes." Cole frowned, feeling the weight of her words but also the thrill of adventure, because he knew that whatever was inside that box was far greater than the guns and bullets chasing them, something that could change the world if it fell into the wrong hands. As they crept through the rocky paths, Cole noticed strange carvings on the stones, symbols that seemed to glow faintly under the moonlight, patterns that did not belong to any human language he had ever seen, and he realized that these ruins were older than any town, older than any history he knew, as if the land itself held secrets of a time long forgotten, guarding the box and guiding them forward. Ilara explained in a low voice that these were markers from her people, an ancient race that had traveled between worlds, leaving warnings and signs to protect the object, and that now humans had stumbled into a challenge they were never meant to face, yet somehow had been chosen to carry forward. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a low growl, and Cole instinctively raised his revolver, scanning the shadows, but before he could see clearly, strange creatures emerged, wild predators of the desert, their eyes glowing in the dark, moving with unnatural speed, as if the desert itself had awakened to test the intruders. Cole fired shots, but the creatures seemed unafraid, almost curious, circling them, sniffing the air, their movements coordinated and precise, and it was then he realized that the box was reacting again, pulsing with energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end, warning him that this was more than a test of courage, it was a test of spirit. Ilara held the box tightly, chanting quietly in a language Cole did not understand, and the creatures hesitated, growling but not attacking, as if the box recognized the human's intention to protect rather than destroy, and Cole felt a mix of fear and awe, realizing that the power they carried was alive, aware, and selective, choosing allies and testing enemies with a wisdom far beyond human understanding. Hours passed as they navigated the canyon, each turn revealing more ruins, more symbols, and more signs that the desert had a history intertwined with the object, and Cole's mind raced with questions. What was this power? Why was it drawn to humans? Could he really resist the temptation to look inside? Yet every step reminded him of Ilara's warnings, and he forced himself to focus, knowing that curiosity could be deadly, that a single mistake could unleash forces they were not ready to face. Finally, they reached a plateau overlooking a vast valley, and the sight took Cole's breath away, ancient stone structures scattered across the land, glowing faintly under the stars, as if the desert itself had stored a secret civilization, waiting for someone to awaken it. Ilara knelt, placing the box on the ground carefully, and began to explain more. The artifact was not just powerful, it was a key, a piece of something much larger, something that could connect worlds, but it chose its keeper carefully, and humans were unpredictable, dangerous, but capable of courage that even her people did not always understand. Cole listened, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, knowing that the outlaws were still out there, that the desert held more threats than he could imagine, yet he also felt a strange excitement, the kind that comes before great change, the kind that makes a man realize that his ordinary life had ended the moment he stepped into Silver Ridge. The night grew colder, and the wind howled through the valley, carrying an almost musical resonance, and Cole realized that the desert was alive in ways he had never believed, that the artifact, the box, and Ilara were all part of a test, a challenge, and a story far larger than himself. As they prepared to rest briefly, Cole glanced at Ilara, seeing determination and fear mixed in her eyes, and he knew that the journey ahead would demand everything from them, courage, patience, and trust, but it would also reveal a truth about humans that no outsider had ever imagined, that even the smallest, most ordinary human could rise to face forces that seemed impossible, and that sometimes, destiny chose the most unlikely hero to carry the weight of worlds. And as the stars shone above, casting silver light over the ancient valley, the box pulsed one last time for the night, as if acknowledging Cole's presence, accepting his promise to protect it, and signaling that the real adventure, the real danger, and the true test of human courage had only just begun, waiting for the dawn to reveal what was to come. Dawn broke over the desert with a pale orange glow, and Cole and Ilara awoke on the plateau, their eyes heavy with tiredness but alert, knowing that the outlaws had not given up and that the artifact in the cloth-covered box pulsed faintly as if aware that danger was near, its energy calling out to both humans and those who would take it for greed or power, and Cole could feel a strange warmth running through his body every time he looked at it, a mix of curiosity, fear, and awe, making him wonder if he could truly resist the temptation to lift the cloth and see what lay beneath, yet he remembered Ilara's warning that even a glance could change a man forever. They packed quickly, moving down the slope into a canyon where shadows still clung to the rocks, the desert alive with strange noises, the hiss of wind, the scrape of stone, the distant calls of animals that seemed to sense the artifact's presence, and Cole noticed strange shapes etched into the canyon walls, symbols glowing faintly in rhythm with the box, guiding their path like an invisible map left by some ancient civilization, and Ilara explained quietly that these were markers her people had left, a trail meant to protect the box and test the humans chosen to carry it, and that every step they took brought them closer to understanding, or to danger. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly, and a low hum filled the air, coming from the box itself, pulsing stronger than before, as if reacting to the energy of the canyon, and Cole felt his heart race, knowing instinctively that they were not alone. From the shadows, figures appeared, humanoid, but taller, with glowing eyes and movements smooth like water, clearly drawn by the artifact, and he realized that this was the first real test, a battle not just of guns and skill but of will and courage. The figures approached slowly, their presence terrifying yet strangely elegant, and Cole raised his revolver, firing with precision, but the bullets passed through harmlessly, as if the desert itself were shielding them, and the artifact pulsed again, stronger, reacting to Cole's determination to protect it rather than to use it selfishly, and Ilara held the box tightly, chanting softly in her language, trying to keep its energy controlled while the strange being circled them, curious but not attacking, testing the humans before making their move. Hours seemed to pass in a tense standoff, with the desert stretching endlessly around them, and Cole realized that the power in the box was not simply dangerous, it was alive, aware, and choosing how to react, judging every action, every heartbeat, and he felt a strange bond forming between himself and the artifact, as if it recognized the courage and spirit that made humans unpredictable, even to other worlds. Finally, one of the beings stepped closer, and the desert seemed to grow quiet, the wind pausing, the hum of the artifact rising to a high pitch, and Cole felt an urge, almost unbearable, to lift the cloth and see what was inside, to understand the secret, but he forced himself to step back, remembering Ilara's words, feeling both frustration and respect for the power he could not yet grasp, and he knew that patience was the only way to survive this encounter. Then, without warning, the figures dissipated like mist in the morning sun, retreating silently as if satisfied with their test, leaving Cole and Ilara alone in the canyon, the artifact pulsing softly now, almost like a heartbeat returning to rest, and Cole realized that this encounter had changed him, that he had felt something ancient, something beyond human, and that the world was bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Ilara looked at him with relief and a small smile, explaining that the beings were guardians, sent to ensure that the artifact was carried by someone who would protect it, and that humans, despite their smallness compared to the universe, had qualities these guardians had never expected: courage, resilience, and an unpredictable spirit that could challenge even the most powerful forces. Cole nodded, still trying to catch his breath, feeling a mixture of fear, excitement, and awe, knowing that the journey ahead would be far harder, that the artifact's power would attract more threats, and that the choices they made now would determine not just their survival but the fate of something much larger than any one human could imagine. As they continued through the canyon, the desert awakening fully in the morning light, the artifact pulsed gently, almost approvingly, and Cole realized that he was no longer just a warrior wandering the Wild West. He had been chosen for something far greater, a test of human spirit against forces from beyond, and he understood that from this point on, nothing would ever be ordinary again, that danger, mystery, and adventure would follow them at every step, and that the true story of courage, trust, and human strength was only just beginning to unfold before his eyes, waiting for the next challenge, the next revelation, and the moment when he would have to decide whether to embrace the power fully or remain its humble protector. Cole and Ilara traveled deeper into the desert, the sun blazing above and the wind carrying whispers of ancient secrets, and every step seemed heavier than the last, not because of the sand or the heat, but because of the weight of the artifact, the cloth-covered box that pulsed with an energy Cole could feel in his chest, a strange rhythm that made his heart beat faster, his mind sharper, and his senses alive in a way he had never experienced before, while Ilara moved carefully beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger, every twitch of the sand and every shadow on the rocks warning of threats they could not yet see. She finally began to explain more about the true nature of the object, her voice low and urgent. "This is not a weapon, not in the way you think. It is a key, a test, and a guardian of power that our worlds have tried to protect for centuries. It reacts to courage, to loyalty, to the human spirit itself, and that is why it chose you, Cole. Humans are small, weak, unpredictable, but that is also why you are dangerous, more than any army or alien could imagine. Cole listened, feeling both pride and fear, realizing that the outlaws, the desert predators, and even the mysterious guardians they had encountered were nothing compared to the real challenge of understanding what humans could do when faced with this power. As they walked, strange shapes began to rise from the desert floor, ruins older than any history Cole knew, towers and temples half buried in sand, their stones glowing faintly in rhythm with the artifact, and he realized that this land had been touched by forces beyond human imagination, a history forgotten by most but alive in every pulse of the box. Suddenly, movement caught his eye. Creatures unlike any he had ever seen emerged from the ruins, their bodies shimmering like heat waves, their eyes bright and calculating, clearly drawn by the artifact's energy, and Cole knew they were not mindless animals, they were observers, judges, maybe even predators testing his resolve. Bullets had no effect, weapons were useless, only courage, cleverness, and spirit mattered, and as they approached, the artifact pulsed stronger, sending a warm, almost electric feeling through Cole's body, as if it recognized his resolve to protect rather than possess, to guard rather than dominate, and he felt a strange confidence growing inside him, certainty that humans were not weak, not even in the face of something far larger than themselves. Ilara explained that the artifact had chosen humans before, but always those with courage, ingenuity, and heart, qualities that alien races underestimated again and again, and now it had chosen Cole, testing him, preparing him, and through him, preparing the human race for challenges they could not yet imagine. As the creatures circled closer, the desert itself seemed alive, reacting to the artifact, to Cole's choices, to the tension in the air, and he realized that the artifact did not just protect itself, it tested, taught, and judged, forcing those around it to become stronger, braver, and smarter than they had ever believed they could be. Hours passed as the sun climbed higher, but the creatures eventually retreated, fading into the ruins, leaving Cole and Ilara standing in the middle of the desert, exhausted but alive, and Cole understood that each encounter, each pulse of the box, each warning from Ilara was a lesson. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability, combined with courage and spirit, made them capable of greatness even alien civilizations could not foresee. As they rested briefly, Ilara finally revealed the full truth. The artifact was part of a larger network of power, scattered across worlds, meant to test and prepare civilizations, and humans, by their very nature, were the wild card, underestimated but unmatched in potential when facing challenges beyond imagination, and now that it had chosen them, Cole and Ilara were no longer just wanderers in the desert, they were guardians, participants in a test that could determine the future of worlds beyond Earth. Cole felt the weight of this responsibility pressing down on him, heavier than any battle he had fought, but also thrilling, because he realized that humans had a spark, a force, a spirit that no alien power could control, and that the artifact, in its strange and mysterious way, was acknowledging that spark, shaping it, preparing it, and perhaps even teaching the universe to respect it. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the desert with red and gold, Cole and Ilara resumed their journey, moving cautiously but with purpose, knowing that more challenges awaited, that the artifact's power would continue to test them, and that humans, small and fragile as they seemed to the universe, had a strength that could shake worlds if they dared to rise to it, and Cole felt a deep resolve in his chest. No matter what came, they would protect the artifact, respect its power, and show that the courage of one human, and eventually all humans, could surpass even the greatest expectations. And as the desert stretched endlessly before them, alive with secrets, challenges, and danger, Cole understood that this was only the beginning, that the real story of human strength, courage, and destiny was just starting to unfold, and that no force, no matter how ancient or powerful, could underestimate the heart of a determined human. The sky darkened with clouds as Cole and Ilara climbed higher into the canyon, the wind whipping sand across their faces and the artifact in Ilara's hands pulsing more strongly than ever, almost as if it sensed that the greatest challenge was about to arrive, and Cole felt a thrill mixed with dread because he knew the desert, the guardians, and even the outlaws were only the beginning of what they would face, that the artifact's true test was still ahead, waiting to measure the courage and spirit of the humans it had chosen. And as they moved through narrow rock passages, strange shapes appeared in the shadows, tall, alien forms with glowing eyes, observing them silently, their presence both terrifying and mesmerizing, and Cole realized that these were not enemies, at least not yet, but part of the trial, a test of patience, judgment, and bravery, and the artifact pulsed again, sending warmth through his body and a subtle warning. Only by staying calm and trusting each other could they survive what was coming. Ilara led him to a plateau overlooking a valley that shimmered in an otherworldly light, and Cole could see ruins that seemed to float, or perhaps were illusions, towers and structures that twisted against the horizon, glowing faintly like the artifact itself, and he understood that the land held secrets far older and more powerful than any human history book had ever told. The desert was alive with knowledge, danger, and tests, all connected to the artifact, and every heartbeat he felt echoed with the responsibility of carrying it safely. Suddenly, the sky erupted with lights, and figures descended, alien warriors with sleek, glowing armor, moving with unnatural speed and precision, clearly drawn to the artifact's energy, and Cole's blood ran cold because he had never faced anything like this, yet at the same time, a fierce determination filled him, reminding him of Ilara's words, "Humans are unpredictable, dangerous, courageous, and the artifact responds to that spirit, and now he would have to prove it." Gunfire rang out, bullets ricocheting off rocks, but the aliens barely slowed, their eyes fixed on the artifact, testing Cole, observing how he would react, and he felt the pulse of the box grow stronger, almost like a heartbeat, feeding him courage, sharpening his reflexes, and guiding his aim, as if the artifact itself was teaching him the way to survive, to protect, and to fight for something larger than himself. Ilara stood beside him, chanting softly in her ancient language, her voice steady despite the chaos, keeping the artifact calm and focused, and Cole realized that they were not alone in this fight. The artifact, the desert, even the air seemed to respond to their determination, amplifying the humans' potential in ways no ordinary weapons could. Hours of tense combat passed, with Cole ducking behind rocks, firing shots with precision, and dodging attacks that no human could normally survive, and yet the artifact pulsed, protective, guiding, rewarding their courage, and the alien warriors began to falter, their attacks less coordinated, almost cautious, because they could sense the unpredictable force of human spirit combined with the artifact's power. Finally, the last warrior retreated, dissolving into light, leaving Cole and Ilara alone, breathing heavily, hearts pounding, the artifact glowing softly now, almost approvingly, and Cole realized that they had passed a test, that humans, even in small numbers and fragile bodies, could rise to challenges far beyond what any enemy could expect, that courage, loyalty, and willpower were powers stronger than guns or alien technology, and that the artifact had chosen wisely. Ilara smiled faintly, exhausted but proud, explaining that this was only one stage of the trial, that the artifact had tested them in combat, in courage, and in spirit, but the ultimate challenge was still ahead, and it would demand even more, wisdom, patience, and the willingness to face the unknown without fear, because humans were now marked by the artifact, recognized as beings capable of greatness, unpredictable and dangerous to anyone who underestimated them, and Cole felt a deep pride, mixed with awe, knowing that his life, once ordinary, had become intertwined with forces far larger than himself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the desert red and gold, Cole and Ilara rested briefly, the artifact pulsing gently in her hands, and he knew that the story of human courage, strength, and destiny was still unfolding, that the true test, the real adventure, was waiting just beyond the next ridge, and that the universe itself would soon have to recognize the unpredictable, unstoppable power of humans when they rose to challenges no one else could survive, and as they prepared to continue their journey into the unknown, Cole understood clearly that the adventure was far from over, that the artifact had chosen wisely, and that the courage of humans, tested and proven, could change the fate of worlds. The desert stretched endlessly under a sky filled with stars as Cole and Ilara reached the edge of a vast canyon, the artifact in her hands glowing brighter than ever, pulsing with energy that seemed alive, aware, and full of expectation, and Cole knew instinctively that this was the moment the artifact had been preparing them for, the final test that would determine not only their survival but the future of the power it carried, because the universe had underestimated humans for too long, never realizing that courage, intelligence, and unpredictable spirit could turn the smallest beings into forces greater than any army or weapon, and now the final challenge had arrived. From the darkness of the canyon, shadows emerged, larger and more imposing than any alien warriors they had faced before, figures cloaked in shimmering light, their eyes glowing like stars, moving with speed and precision that defied human comprehension, and Cole felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his chest, knowing that he and Ilara were the only humans standing between this energy and those who would misuse it, while the artifact pulsed in response to his courage, guiding him, teaching him, and amplifying his instincts. As the figures advanced, Cole drew his revolver, but he knew bullets alone would not win this battle, and he glanced at Ilara, who held the artifact tightly, chanting softly in her ancient language, keeping its power steady and ready to respond to their intentions, and he realized that together, they formed a bond stronger than any weapon, a partnership of human courage and ancient power that the universe had never witnessed before. The shadows attacked, moving with blinding speed, but Cole felt the artifact's energy flow through him, sharpening his senses, guiding his movements, and even when strikes came from impossible angles, he dodged, countered, and protected Ilara, his mind and body working as if the artifact had become part of him, merging human instinct with something ancient and unstoppable, and with every pulse, he could feel humans' true potential, a power that even advanced civilizations could not predict or control. The battle raged for hours under the stars, with Cole and Ilara moving as one, using intelligence, courage, and strategy rather than sheer force, and slowly, the figures began to falter, unable to understand the unpredictable tactics of humans enhanced by the artifact's energy, and finally, the last of the attackers dissolved into light, leaving the desert silent once again, except for the pulsing heartbeat of the artifact, softer now, approving, acknowledging the humans who had passed the ultimate test. Cole lowered his revolver, exhausted but exhilarated, and Ilara turned to him, her eyes shining with relief and pride, explaining that they had proven what her people had never fully expected, that humans, small and seemingly weak, carried within them a spirit that could survive, adapt, and overcome the greatest challenges, that courage, loyalty, and unpredictability were powers in themselves, and that now the artifact had chosen humans to be guardians of its secret, to carry its energy responsibly, and perhaps even to change the future of many worlds. As they walked back toward the canyon's edge, the desert bathed in the soft glow of dawn, Cole felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had ever known, knowing that ordinary humans had extraordinary potential, and that courage, determination, and trust could face any force in the universe, and that the artifact had tested, strengthened, and revealed that power to the world. Ilara placed the artifact gently on the ground, and together they watched as its light faded to a soft pulse, calm, steady, and alive, and Cole realized that their journey was not over, that humans would continue to face challenges, threats, and tests, but they were now ready, stronger, and wiser than before, because they had seen the truth. Strength is not measured by size or weapons, but by spirit, courage, and the willingness to rise when the universe demands it. Cole smiled faintly, looking out across the desert, the ruins, the ancient markers, and he understood that they had changed something greater than themselves, that humans had been recognized by forces far beyond the stars, and that their story, the story of courage, intelligence, and indomitable spirit, would echo in ways the universe could never forget. And as he looked at Ilara and the artifact, pulsing softly between them, he knew that humans, small but fierce, unpredictable but brave, were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, and that from this day forward, the desert, the stars, and even the unseen forces of the universe would remember that the heart of a determined human could stand against anything, overcome anything, and perhaps, one day, even change the fate of worlds.